Story 1. I have dispatched the police before. There was a mentally deranged person who repeatedly called our office line because there were fairies in her car messing with her engine and brake lines. I did not always dispatch an officer to her, but the first time I received a call from her, I did. The address she was at turned out to be a vacant home. When the officer arrived on scene, he did not find her as he was calling over the radio to say negative contact, unable to find the caller. As he was talking, I could hear a high-pitched keening sound behind his voice. I thought it might be something up with his microphone, so I asked him to check it. I did not hear a response for more than half a minute and did a unit check. Now, this was close to 3 o'clock in the morning, and we tend to get more antsy when units don't answer radio checks. Another unit who also happened to be in the area jumps on the radio saying he's en route. I keep trying to call him on the radio, but still no answer. The second unit gets on scene and doesn't say anything else for another minute. I do a unit check on him and he says, units are 10-4, but Unit 1's radio is in possession of the caller. I've only got 3 units at this point in time. No one else is coming in till 5 o'clock. The lieutenant is now coming over the radio saying he's en route. They're out there for 40 fucking minutes, never explaining what's actually happening. Then everyone just goes back in service, saying no report is needed. I later found out that the chick who called in is a crack who wears children's clothing and is apparently really good at stealing shit and climbing trees. The officer got the shit scared out of him though because she looks like a skeleton and he barely saw her as she disengaged his radio and then ran the fuck away skittering up a tree. She has family in the area and kept bouncing around their houses. She did eventually get committed. Story 2. I had a call to a residence for a mental evaluation or a 5,150. Anyway, I got there and spoke to a 50-something-year-old woman who stated her 20-something-year-old son was under the influence of an unknown drug and kept repeating that he couldn't go in his bedroom because there was an old man hanging in his room. She stated she was too scared to go in his room and investigate it for herself because he constantly brings over friends that are drug addicts and is unsure if his claims were true or not, one former police officer said. I then go speak to the son, who is clearly under the influence of a stimulation. He goes on to tell me that he was told by a spirit to not enter the bedroom because her father, dressed in his military Class A uniform, was hanging in his bedroom. I checked the room out, and of course, there was nobody hanging in the room. As I was in the middle of explaining to the mother that there was nobody in the bedroom, a veteran officer arrived on the scene to assist me. He pulled me aside and stated earlier in his career he responded to this residence, and in that same bedroom, he had to investigate a suicide by hanging an older male subject. He didn't remember all the details, so I looked it up in our report management system in my patrol car, and sure enough, the officer was correct. The subject who died was a World War II veteran and had dressed in his military uniform and hung himself. Story 3. 3 a.m. I got called to a suicidal female in her low-income apartment. Me and my partner find the unit and I knock on the door. It creaks slowly open, showing pitch black from the inside. I identify myself. Ma'am, it's the police. We're coming in. No response, but I can see the shadows bouncing from a candlelit bedroom towards the back. I step in the doorway and see the woman sitting on the edge of her bed. She has a regular-sized torso, but her arms and legs are really tiny, like a baby's. She is wearing filthy stained pajamas and her tiny legs are kicking rapidly. She is whispering and shaking her head back and forth. I notice a few candles on the bedside table, which is stacked full of Virgin Mary figurines. The walls are covered with rough sketches of crosses, upside-down ones. Ma'am, this is the police. That's when I notice the noose hanging in the closet swaying slightly. Her wrinkled face snaps towards me. You can't help me! The devil has me! Yeah, I wasn't worried about falling asleep for the rest of that night shift. Edit. So some people were asking for more details, and here they are. I called my partner over, he took one look in the room and said, "Fuck this," and went to let the paramedics in. The lady is still staring at me, her head tilting back and forth, kind of like when you confuse a dog, but less hilarious and more terrifying. I say, "Ma'am, we are here to help you. The paramedics are on their way up." She whispers, "Do you believe in God?" The apartment is deathly quiet when I whisper back, "No, ma'am." She nods and says, "That's good. Were you going to kill yourself tonight, ma'am?" "I've been dead for years. Tonight I was going to end the pain. She slides off of the bed and onto the floor. She kind of does a push-up type pose on her tiny deformed limbs, still staring into my soul. The bed is covered in reddish-brown stains, one covering another, covering another. She bats something that is under the bed toward her and pulls out a small glass bottle. It says holy water on the side. She flips the top up, rolls onto her back, and starts splashing this fucking liquid all over her. And she goes back to kicking her feet frantically. Save me! Save me! Save me! Save me! Save me! She's shouting at the top of her lungs. The paramedics come into the room and I'm slowly backing out, resting my hand on the grip of my SIG P226. Save me! Save me! Save me! Save me! Save me! Again and again, the medics try to lift her to put her on the gurney. She lashes out, scratching the arms of the medics, drawing blood. They have to wrap her in the sheet and secure her with the seatbelt straps on the bed. The paramedic told me later that she screamed the whole way to the mental health wing in the hospital. Save me! Save me! Save me! Save me! Save me! I was the last one to leave the apartment. I blew out the candles and made sure the stove was off. I had one foot out the door. I quickly ran back to her room, grabbed the little bottle, splashed some holy water onto my hatch gloves, and got the fuck out of there. Story 4. Not a police officer, but I did call the police after some strange things happened in my house. A couple of years ago, my girlfriend and I were watching over my mom's house while she was out of town. My old bedroom was in the basement, so that is where we planned on sleeping. At around 2:30 a.m., I decided to go to bed after watching some TV. My girlfriend was already fast asleep in bed, and just as I was turning off the light and tucking myself in, I heard a massive thud come from upstairs. Now, this was no ordinary thud. It was a noise that was so deep and heavy that it shook the entire structure of the house. My girlfriend, who is a very deep sleeper, awoke to this noise and saw me, pale as a ghost, staring right back at her. I feel like I need to take a minute to describe the magnitude of this noise. Initially, I thought either A, someone drove their vehicle into the side of the house, B, someone took a sledgehammer to the front door, or C, the grand piano somehow managed to drop through the floor from the top level. Now, as you can imagine, we are both terrified. I immediately get up, lock my bedroom door, and grab my baseball bat while my girlfriend grabs the cordless phone and goes into the closet. I know it sounds like we were overreacting, but at the time, we were absolutely terrified. She dials 911 while I wait by the door with the bat. She gets through and explains that we might have an intruder in the house. The operator tells us to wait in line while she dispatches the police. Fast forward a few minutes and the call drops. We are both freaking out because we think the line has been cut. But almost immediately the phone rings. I answer and it is the police notifying us that they are now outside the house. He says to me, "Okay, here's the plan. We are going to walk the perimeter of your house and look for any signs of forced entry. If we do not find anything, we will ring the doorbell 3 times and you will come upstairs and let us in. Understand?" I tell him yes. After a few minutes of silence, I heard the doorbell ring 3 times. Now, this is probably one of the scariest moments of my life, but I unlock the bedroom door and run through the darkness of the basement, up the stairs, into the front door. I unlock the door to find a handful of police cars, including an undercover unit, as well as the K9 unit parked on the street in the lawn. He tells me to grab my girlfriend and any pets we may have, so I do so. We come outside and they bring the K9 to the door. "Police, call out now or you will be bit." He yells this 2 more times and then releases the dog. After a few minutes of searching the house, the lead officer comes up to us and tells us they haven't found anyone in the house. He tells us that the streets leading to and from the house have been blocked off and they are stopping any vehicles going through. We both feel terrible for causing such a scene, but he assures us that we did the right thing. To this day, I still have nightmares of this night. It will always remain a mystery to us. Whatever caused that noise will always boggle my mind. Story 5. Get a call about a possible break-in near the downtown area of my city. My partner and I arrive on the scene of an incredibly nice house. I noticed right away that something was strange because the lights in all the upstairs bedrooms were flashing over and over. Partner and I kind of go, "What a fuck," and go and knock on the front door. A woman answers the door and it's clear she has been crying because there is makeup running down her face. I asked her what seemed to be the problem, and she was quiet for a few minutes and finally said, "Sir, if I told you, I'm afraid you wouldn't believe me." I assured her that whatever her concern was, we were here to take it very seriously. She said that around 2 weeks ago, she awoke in the night to her bedroom window slamming shut. She said she knew for certain she hadn't left it open and immediately suspected a burglar. The scary thing about it, she said, was after checking all the rooms and making sure her kids were still sleeping, there wasn't any sign of anyone else in the house. She brushed it off and went back to sleep. At about this time, as she was telling us the story, I heard a loud bang come from an upstairs bedroom. "Ma'am, is there anyone else in the house with you?" That's the thing, she said, "I'm the only one here." I told her to stay downstairs, and my partner and I headed up to investigate the noise. As we neared the bedroom, pictures flew off the wall. It was the scariest thing I've seen in my life. My brain repeatedly said, "Fuck this, nope the fuck out of here." But I knew we had to continue to secure the house from possible intruders. My partner's eyes were as big as seashells when the light bulb above him exploded. We gave each other, "Are you seeing all this look?" and both nodded. I could see the lights flashing under the door of the room the noise had come from. I slowly opened the door and bam, lights went out, nothing there. Immediately, same thing starts happening in the next bedroom over loud banging lights flashing. I run over and slam open the door and the same fucking thing, nothing. We return downstairs and tell the woman we are concerned and are going to call for another unit to help us get to the bottom of this. I return to the squad car and am calling in the request when I see a figure move past the window of the upstairs bedroom where the banging was. I tell my partner there is somebody up there, I just saw them. We ran up the stairs, guns drawn, and slammed open the door with the classic "police, get down on your hands and knees." My partner was knocked to the ground from behind, and I spun around in time to see him hit the ground. Out of the dark hallway came the figure. I was certain my heart was about to explode when it shrieked, "I'm a need about tree fitty. Ah, you're no good Loch Ness monster. You get the hell out of here and quit terrorizing nice ladies, you dirty old monster." The monster disappeared with an evil laugh. My partner was hurt pretty badly from the monster shove. He was in the hospital for a couple of days with broken ribs. I haven't seen anything quite like that in all my years as an officer. Story 6. There's a lot of spooky shit that goes down in my neck of the woods. Chi-town. And I mean a lot. Like more than usual. Like the only reason my entire division, Special Investigations, exists is to deal with it. So I've got some stories. 1. The first call that really sticks in my head is from a couple of years back. A young couple was found dead in a hotel room. So we head over. The first thing that hits us is the smell. Blood smells a certain way, a kind of sticky, almost metallic odor. And the air is full of it when the elevator doors open to the top floor of the hotel. Heading down to what can only be the honeymoon suite, the smell gets thicker, almost vomit-inducing by itself. Heading in, this place is ritzy, the sitting room done almost entirely in shades of red and gold. Nice sofas, shag carpet, the works. People have definitely been here. There are clothes thrown about the floor and a half-finished bottle of champagne in a bucket of what used to be ice. No bodies, though. So we proceed through toward the bedroom. They must have died sometime the night before, as rigor mortis had already set in. They were on the bed. She was astride him, body leaned back, bowed like a dancer's, the curves of her breasts making a lovely outline. He stretched beneath her, pretty lean, powerful-looking dude arms reaching out and grabbing at the sheets. If it was a photograph, it would have been pretty striking. Except the lovers' rib cages on the upper left side of their torsos had expanded outward through their skin, their ribs jabbing out like snapped knives. Blood had sprayed out of their bodies, all the way to the mirror on the ceiling, along with the pulp, gelatinous masses of flesh that had to be what remained of their hearts. It definitely cut down on the erotic potential. Called in a specialist to figure that one out, and as often as he explained it to me, I never really got a grip on how it was done. Just a few months later, we saw a large uptick in wolf killings. Yeah, like people killed by wolves. In inner city Chicago, people were ripped to pieces. The first thing we think is it's this street gang that has a bit of a wolf motif. That falls through pretty quickly, but it turns out there's a connection between all the deaths. All these folks are in some way involved with this thing called the Northwest Passage Project, spearheaded by a guy named McFinn. So we look into it, run by McFinn's place, and this is where it gets weird. Inside, there's a girl lying in a pool of blood and her throat is just straight up gone, like down to her spine, just torn out. We look around a bit, and down in the basement is some sort of circle inlaid on the floor. It was a large ring of braided gold surrounded by a bunch of weird writing, all punctuated with gems and inlaid with silver. I mean, I've got my kinks, but that shit was just weird. Even weirder, the entire thing looks like someone tried to pry it all out of the ground. We call up that same specialist from earlier, and he tells us the circle is meant to keep werewolves in. Seriously, a few more wolf-esque deaths later, and we have some people locked up, but every once in a while I stop and wonder whether they really did it. 3, and on top of it all, we straight up have a guy who claims to be a wizard who set up shop here. Real weirdo, but he does good work, so I'm not going to argue. If you feel like Googling him, his name is Harry Dresden.